Good evening and welcome to the Outpost Frequencies, brought to you by thelastmovieoutpost.com for all of your movie news, reviews, and everything cool about films. I'm your host this evening, not George Lucas, and with me this evening is Drunken Yoda.
Happy Easter, Georgie. How we doing?
Oh, Easter, it's a wonderful time of year. It's the time of year that we remember that Jesus killed the Easter Bunny in Mortal Kombat, and the Easter Bunny on its dying wish said that everybody should have chocolates, and so Jesus gives chocolate to everybody. I don't know how you celebrate over there, but our tradition is to eat lots of chocolate and to kill rabbits.
Clearly you've never read the Bible.
Well, obviously. But no,
look, all right, look.
No,
Jesus was no. I'm going to tell the real story here. Jesus was died for our sins. He was nailed up on a cross. He died for our sins.
Right.
They took him down after he died. You know, they put him in the tomb. They rolled the stone across the tomb. 3 days later on Easter, they roll it back, and if he sees his shadow, it's 6 more weeks of winter.
Right. Okay. Just like in that movie, Punxsutawney Phil.
Yes. Very much so.
No, see, the tradition
Let's hope
here,
Jesus didn't have to relive the crucifixion day after day after day.
That would be a bad day
suck.
to get the groundhog on.
Yeah.
No, over here the tradition is to eat lots of chocolate and to kill rabbits. And I, not to brag, have done 15 today. The
rabbits?
pet shop owner. Yeah, killed 15 rabbits.
Holy
the pet
shit.
shop owner was not happy, but then he shouldn't have been open on a Sunday, so it's kind of his own fault.
You're a psychopath.
Those kids will not forget Easter.
Send the police, please. I'm please.
No, it's an English tradition.
Sure it is.
You do that with foxes and all sorts. It's an English tradition. You just got to kill something at some time of the year on a holiday. Christmas is a bloodbath over here.
That's where we killed, that's when baby Jesus was born, so we killed babies. Lots of babies.
Didn't that actually happen, though? Didn't Herod have them killed?
Yeah, that's how you celebrate, as I understand it.
Yeah. Stunt the next generation. Anyway.
Well, judging from Gen Z, mission accomplished.
Yeah, that's right. I don't really want these people to have the future. So let's go through some of the news ever so briefly. Just whilst I should also say as well, because Eggy Weggy was going to join us, but unfortunately he has family commitments. We obviously know where his priorities lie, with his family. And Sean is the same. I did say that Sean was nailed to a cross, which has got nothing to do with an Easter parade or anything else. It's just his local friends saw the live stream last week and decided to nail him to a cross.
Well, it's either that. I know his in-laws are visiting, so it could go either way.
Yeah. It's a shame they're not with us. But hopefully Eggy will be joining us and Sean will be back next week.
Is it a shame they're not joining us, or is it a shame that we're so dead inside that we have no family to speak of that would want to even spend any holiday, that we're just miserable old bastards sorry.
I come here to get away from this. This therapy session's awful.
they always take a left turn, don't they?
Yeah. Every week, I never learn. If I was paying for this, I'd be angry. So, in the news, just trying to see what was news. Well, everybody's favourite, Brie Larson, is now joining the family because she's now going to be in the new Fast and Furious film. I know
that's point of order. That's family with a B.
Is it?
Yes.
Why is it with a B?
I don't know, but that's how Vin Diesel pronounces it. Family.
Family. But in a much more sort of family way.
You got it.
With a gruff there. I mean, they keep saying this is the last one, but I don't imagine that's true. It's the 10th one. The last one, everybody joked about them going into space, but they actually took a car into space. Where else can they go? Time travel.
God, I hope so.
They could go back and kill Paul Walker and Vin Diesel with the train in the first one.
No, really go for it. It's like, Vin Diesel's right there with the three. He and what's the Ludacris? He and Ludacris and Michelle Rodriguez are all there right in front of the baby Jesus. Truly, this is the King of Kings.
Yeah. Yeah,
and
welcome to the family.
Then jump a GTO over it.
Yeah, that could be their mission. They've got to save Jesus from being crucified.
That's right. And to do that, they have to jump the pyramids. That's how they lose the Sphinx nose.
Complete another crossover of every culture in the world, and then they have to fight Perseus and the.
That's right.
I mean, to be fair, I can't imagine many Fast and Furious fans would be very good on historical accuracy.
I think they would think, did this really happen?
Dude, this is like so awesome. I'm like learning like from history and stuff. This is like amazing. I know everybody seems to hate Brie Larson. I because of the whole Captain Marvel thing. I mean, funny enough, Captain Marvel was on TV last night, and I did watch some of it. It's not the greatest of films, and I do. If you're looking at it from the whole female empowerment and thing, that yes, she is overly powerful and everything else, but it's not a bad movie. I don't think.
No, it's a bad movie.
Really?
Yeah. The problem is that okay. What exactly does that character have to overcome?
She had
a little memory loss.
When she was little. Yeah, no, I was going to say when she was little and she had that car accident, and then she was in.
Oh God!
Climbing on the ropes and stuff.
She has to get away from the oppression of her father, trying to keep her from killing herself horribly, constantly. She's wrecking a go-kart. She's taking fastballs to the head. It's like I'd be like trying to stop you too if I was your dad. You're obviously a lunatic, and then she's got all the power in the world, and she's just held down by the man, by the oppressor, by the patriarchy or something. And it's just a lot of nonsense. It's like, oh, you need to control your emotions. I barely saw her crack an emotion in that entire movie.
Yeah, that is true. Her character had all one dimension.
So it's the last Fast and the Furious movie. You're adding Brie Larson. That's not good. Brie Larson was in Kong Skull Island, and the next two MonsterVerse movies were terrible. The Phase 4 of Marvel is going down the shitter since she's been added to it. Is Brie Larson like your franchise Shark Jump?
Hang on. You've got to give her room because that was very good.
Yeah, but it wasn't a franchise.
Well,
it was just her grift to get into the franchise.
Oh, she got nominated for an Oscar. Quick, let's pin her down. Okay, then so. Superman still may be going ahead. But then later on in the week, we had that Warner Brothers are having like a massive reshuffle of everything that's going on with DC. And that's going to be interesting to see how that goes.
It almost sounds like there's some people at Discovery that are adults. I've got my fingers crossed because they seem to be like, yeah, all that stuff you're doing with DC, which is one of your most valuable properties, that's enough. Please, all of you get the fuck out. And that's...
No, you misunderstand. I had a 30-year plan. Wow. In 30 years, it would have made a lot of sense. Don't get rid of me now.
Yeah. I mean, I still hear people just saying, bring back the Snyderverse. The reason why you want to bring back the Snyderverse, because everything else in the DC universe, minus maybe Shazam, is garbage.
Yeah.
And Whedon clearly screwed it up. Although I give Whedon 50% of the blame because of just him being him, but there was a whole bunch of studio bullshit in it too. And reshoots and everything else that put him in a terrible position.
Yeah.
And not that he didn't make the worst of that opportunity, but still. And I think Discovery's coming in there and saying, look, you guys are making this way too. I mean, I would like to see, if you're going to do Superman, you mean to make the tone more like Shazam. I don't mean like childish and everything, but bright and optimistic.
Yeah.
It's okay to make Batman dark and gritty, but you don't make every fucking thing dark and gritty because Batman's dark and gritty.
Yeah, he's not like I suppose they had the success of the Dark Knight and Batman Begins and the Nolan Batmans, which were all very dark and gritty and whatnot. And I suppose from that point they sort of thought, oh, maybe we just need to keep that tone up because that seemed to work.
Maybe.
But what they didn't realise was, you also had Nolan behind it, who, I mean, I know not everybody's a fan of the Dark Knight and everything else, but it was a huge, massive success and did incredibly well at the box office.
I mean, yeah, that's the problem with these guys. They're very short-sighted. They say, this worked, so let's make the Bridget Jones movie dark and gritty. And, I mean, that's their mindset.
Bridget Jones need a cape? I mean,
she needs a cape and a cowl. And we need to murder her parents in an alley.
That's a good start for any kind of.
Actually, I'm kind of talking myself into this one.
Yeah. It would make an interesting twist on that. The other good but bad news, I think you sort of mentioned it in your entertainment news about good things that we cannot no longer enjoy. The Orville looks like it's been cancelled. Are you a fan of the Orville?
I am.
Because obviously, it is. I know how you feel about Star Trek, and it's
definitely it is head and shoulders above anything that is currently Star Trek, no doubt. In comparison to great Star Trek, it's got a ways to go, but its heart is in the right place. There's a few things that I don't like. The whole Moclan thing, that's the race of all males that reproduce that way.
Yeah.
I mean, then if they do that, then why are they so anti-female, or why do females sometimes come around? It makes zero sense from an evolutionary and biological standpoint. And it's all just a kind of a trans or feminist, or it's just a way to put some current year issues on. Fortunately, they don't have many of those episodes, but those are really bad.
I see. It's funny. I know what you mean, but I don't feel that the message is being rammed down my throat with them.
I do for the most part, but just those.
Okay.
The rest of them,
that's fair enough.
Just the rest of the ones, they may have a message. Like there was a one where they did about the social. They visited a planet that was very similar to 21st century Earth, and everybody. The justice system was basically everybody upvoting or downvoting you on some sort of social media, to the point that you actually had everybody had a badge. You had a green arrow or a red arrow on it. You could just hit it and up and down vote.
Yeah, I remember now. Yeah.
And if you got downvoted, note you had to go on an apology tour, and if the apology tour didn't work, then you would go to some sort of lobotomy, basically. But people acted. It's kind of, I don't know. I mean, it was like a Black Mirror episode,
Yeah, I was just gonna. Yeah, funny enough, I watched Black Mirror again in the last few weeks, and it's very much like that episode.
Wasn't nearly as subtle, but that show, I don't expect it to be necessarily as subtle or as well thought out sometimes as Black Mirror. But that doesn't mean. Like, I like the message of the episode as a secondary thing, and the rest of it was fairly entertaining, if not a little bit, in your face. But there's been some really, I think the whole thing with the mechanical race of Isaacs that turned out to be evil, and then he turned against his people. But he's very interesting because unlike Spock or even Data to a certain extent, I think that Star Trek had to give Data the emotion chip, or had to play with the emotion chip to make him have those kinds of, so you could make him more relatable. And with Isaac, they have never tried to give him emotions. They have never. He makes very subtle decisions, and you don't, and he turned against his people. And he clearly, he is trying to figure out how to, he started up a relationship with Claire, which is the doctor.
Yeah.
And that whole thing, I think, is done brilliantly, because this this guy is trying. But why is he trying? We try because we have an emotional impetus
need
to try.
and yeah,
need,
yeah,
right?
yeah.
Why are you and I doing this every week? Because we have an emotional need to try to accomplish something, or just to have fun, or to get, there's something, primal about the whole thing of everything that we do, right? You get married, you protect your kids, you and your wife, or you love a girl, or whatever, whatever it is that your passion is, it's always sort of a deep-seated emotion. But he didn't have that, and yet he has something that is driving him to do things differently than the rest of his people. And what is that? I don't know if we'll ever get a chance to really understand that. And whether or not it's...
I was just going to say, those 2 particular episodes were brilliantly done.
Yeah.
The whole space battle and everything else, they were fantastic bits of TV. And I know that my initial thoughts of the Orville was going to be Family Guy in space, and it kind of was leaning too hard into dumb jokes at the beginning. But then, after a while, you really start to care for all the characters, and you really like everybody, and you want to follow their stories, even what's his name, Bortus, and all that kind of thing. Because I know Stark keeps going on about that particular episode with the where he installs the porn hologram, and then it enters a virus into the ship and stuff. But again, I think that obviously, like I say, there is the message there, but it's not. I don't feel that the message is being rammed down my throat with episodes and stuff. And I think that's kind of a breath of fresh air.
Yeah, I mean, Star Trek certainly had more than enough message episodes. Not all of them great, but it was never sacrificing character or good writing, or it would try to show both sides. It was smart enough it was trying to let you make the decision on stuff. And I think for the most part, the Orville does that, which is difficult in this day and age.
Yeah.
But I think there's, and when it's not trying to ram a message, when it's doing something like the Isaac episodes, which is just exploring a very alien,
view of humans, really.
View of humans and an alien motivation to care, but not in a way that we can understand, because we are motivated by animal, biological, emotional passions, right? It is completely mechanical, and yet it has still got this primal desire to care for somebody, but in a way that we can't understand. I find that fascinating. I find that idea fascinating. Can we grow beyond? I mean, it's almost like I'm going to go back to Star Trek, the motion picture here, but it's like, can we be more than what we are?
Yeah.
Can a computer get beyond logic and find something? Can it make that leap? V'Ger had to do it by merging with a human. Isaac did it without doing that.
So, with that, then, do you think? I think it was Eggy who made it. Said it in the talkback about how basically the new Star Trek, the Star Trek fans seems to dislike. The new Picard seems to be kind of just a joke of itself.
It is,
and yet, here comes along this parody of Star Trek, which is loved by the fans, and so they seem to cancel it. And it's kind of, do you think it's a case of, no, don't enjoy that, because that's not real Star Trek. Enjoy what we give you. Don't enjoy this.
What was my moral? Don't like stuff.
Yeah, exactly. Because as soon as you do, it gets taken away from you.
Yeah, I mean, they did it with Firefly. They did it with the first Star Trek. And I'm sure everybody can think of some show or something that they really liked that didn't make it. And they'll
carry on doing it.
Yeah, I mean, I have come to the point to say, well, they say this is the end of the Orville. It's like, is it?
Yeah.
In 5 years, when they get everybody together, get contracts signed and everything, they make a few movies. I mean, who are we kidding here? Of course that'll happen.
It's funny. That's what I thought, because they sort of said that everybody's contracts has expired and so they're free to go. And I did think, Yeah, but just because they are free to go, it doesn't mean they want to go. If I mean, a lot of series that go on for a long time, I quite like the American Office, and you can obviously see that everybody just loves each other. All the outtakes and stuff, they all get on really well. Why would you not want to work in an environment like that where you're working with your friends and having a laugh all day?
Yeah, that was the interesting thing between the original series and the Next Generation. The original series, the cast didn't get on with each other too well. I think Shatner and Nimoy generally liked and respected each other, but certainly had their problems. Of course, Sulu hated the guy, and the others, I think they kind of. I mean, I don't get the feeling that there was a huge
tea
bond
and
there.
biscuits after each episode filming
but
day.
On the flip side, the Next Generation casts are extremely close with each other.
Yeah.
I mean, so much so that Gates McFadden, when she leaves, she had to come back because she missed those guys. That was a big part of it. Her only reason for leaving, as I understand it, was because Roddenberry was such a pill, and that guy that was running things for Roddenberry was a complete utter nutbag. And when they got rid of him and Berman kind of took over, then she agreed to come back. But one of the reasons she agreed to come back is because she missed those people, missed that cast, and they all got along famously, from what I understand. So, and still do.
Speaking of another series, one that I mean, I'm just going to bring this up because I'm excited about it, but one you probably haven't seen is Inside Number 9. Now,
I hadn't even heard of it.
It's funny enough, I thought they'd only done a couple of series, and when I looked it up, this is going to be their 7th series they've just had a trailer for. And I didn't realise looking through, because I mean, in Britain we only do the 6 episodes at 30 minutes, so I mean it's it's not like some of the like early American series which are an hour long and 24 of them and everything else. This was just sort of short and sweet. But the two guys that did it, Steve Pemberton and Reece Shearsmith, they used to work with another guy called Mark Gatiss, who has just recently done the new Dracula on the BBC, which I wasn't a fan of, but the three of them used to be in what's called the League of Gentlemen. Not the Extraordinary League of Gentlemen, which is a terrible, terrible film. This was a just comedy series of just sketches that they found funny, set in a fictional village called Royston Vasey, and there were some really bizarre characters in there. There was a what do you call him, a butcher, and he never said it, but you got the impression that his sausages contain human flesh and stuff. But like I say, it was never said. But people would come into the shop and say, "Have you got any of the special sausages?" type of thing, and no, I haven't got them anymore. I can't give them up now. I can't, and always kind of. And my one of my favourite characters was this vet who had just the worst luck. And there's a sketch where he goes in to see this old farmer, and he says, "Oh, hello, Mr. whatever his name is." He says, "I've come to see you about old Bess." And she's going, "Ah, my old Bess. She's been with me for so long now, but I think it's time for her to go. So." Yeah, I'm very upset. So, but you just And so anyway, this guy walks out. So the vet goes over to the dog sitting in front of the fire, and he goes, "There we go, old dear. You're going to be out of pain in just a little while. Don't worry." And he sort of gets his thing out of the bag, and he gives his dog an injection, and then the old guy walks back in carrying a dog, and he says, "Who's that?" And he said, "Oh, it's his old Bess, the one that needs putting down. And this one by the fire? Oh, that's my new Shep. She's my life and soul, she is." And so, the humour in it was
dark.
Really, really dark, yeah. And it did get very, very weird. But Inside Number 9 is basically just the two guys, but they play different characters in each and every episode. But some of the stories are absolutely fantastic, and some of them are very dark. There's one about a girl who goes to house sit for somebody, for an old person, and it turns out basically the old person has made a pact with the devil, and he needs a new human form to take into, which is going to be this young girl. And they're brilliantly twisted in it's just, if you get a chance on BBC America, I'm sure it's on there, Inside Number 9. Brilliant series. There is going to be episodes which will make you think, and then some that will make you laugh, and just is worth watching.
Is this a new series? Or
no, like I say, it's been out since, well, at least sort of 6 years ago. Because like I say, this is the 7th season that they're going to be starting. So like I say,
but it's still running. It's a current series, though.
Yeah.
Is it like an anthology? Is that what?
Oh yeah, it's a complete portmanteau. There's no relation to any of the episodes to any of the others. They
I
are
gotcha.
just different stories about different things, and some have vampires in. And I think I spoke about this the other day that they had an episode with Una Chaplin, who is Charlie Chaplin's daughter or granddaughter, and the entire episode was silent. It was about two guys breaking into a house and nobody says anything at all. And it's very, very cleverly done. And they take their inspiration, they said, from a lot of things like the Wicker Man and stuff like that. So it's, twisted.
Is it more comedy or more horror, or is it?
It's a real mixture. I mean, some of them, like I say, there are some episodes where I still think about them now and think, that's the way it was played out was actually really brilliant. And then some, don't sort of strike so much of a chord, but then they might with other people. And it's a very clever series, and definitely because they're only half an hour. But I found that a lot of the stories for half an hour have been much more engaging than some of the stuff Hollywood's been churning out of late. So definitely worth checking out.
What's it on?
BBC America. Or if not over here, the BBC iPlayer.
I wonder if it's on any of the other major streaming channels, because I don't have BBC America per se.
Oh right. I don't know. Like I say, I've got BBC the iPlayer over here, so I can play it on here. And I think it's streaming on the 20th of April, was it Wednesday? Yes, the 20th. So they've got the whole series streaming, so I will be quite happy to sit down and binge watch the entire series. But like I say, I love them. I think they're great. So if you get a chance to check them out, definitely do.
Oh no, this sounds awfully British to me.
British and dark and not funny and people with bad teeth. Yes, it covers all the bases. So, right, let's talk about then Easter. What's the best?
Well, I was going to talk about one more. I was going to talk about one more thing I saw this weekend, and I guess it kind of falls into this because it was was it a religious movie? I guess it kind of was, or it certainly
of course, yeah.
dealt with it. But it's called Father Stu,
right?
And it's a true story about basically a dipshit who becomes a priest.
He's called Mark Wahlberg.
Yeah. Yeah, real stretch on the casting there, by the way. No, Wahlberg was good, and the guy is not. He's a dipshit, but he's not stupid.
Right.
He sometimes he can see things somewhat clearly that others can't, or he has good answers to things, or he can kind of see through horseshit pretty well.
Right.
But he's made some bad decisions in his life, and part of it is that his brother died just overnight one night, just some natural thing. They didn't really get into the reasons why, but it was as a child. He was a child. They were both kids still. And that broke up the marriage. The father, who's played by Mel Gibson, is very hard on him, and then left. His mother does his best with him. He decides he wants to be a boxer, which he does fairly well, but never hugely big deal. And he gets to a point where it's like, you can't box anymore. You're going to die. So he decides he's going to be an actor. And he's a fairly good-looking guy. They show pictures of him when he's young, and he's not a bad-looking guy at all. But he's like, I think he finally gets he calls his mom once and says, watch during The Young and the Restless. I'm going to be on. And she's thinking, oh, he's got a part in The Young and the Restless. And no, he's got a part in a commercial to hawk mops. And she's like, oh, all right. And he keeps drinking and he's looking for more work. He's not really getting anywhere with it. And this girl he works at a grocery store, and a girl comes in and he falls for her, just like immediately. She's a very Catholic girl, so he decides to go to church. Basically, he goes to church to get laid. That's why he decides to go to church, and
that's probably one of the most reasons why most people go to the church, isn't it?
But I'm being a little facetious. He really does care for her, and he wants to be with her, and she's obviously doesn't want to be with him, but he kind of breaks her down. And And then at one point, but he keeps drinking. At one point, he's taking a motorcycle back. He's drunk, and he is in a horrific accident. Like, he barely misses a guy. Then he slams into a car, and he flies off the bike. And then he gets run over by 2 more cars. I'm like, oh, my God, why isn't he dead? And they think he is going to die, but he comes out of the coma. And the girl, really falls for him. But he, during the...
So that's how you get a girl.
Yeah. Nearly die.
Yeah, nearly serious bike accident, get in coma. Got it.
So he ends up having kind of a vision while he's in the coma, thinking he saw the Mary, because all this church stuff is starting to get to him.
Right.
Up until that point. And then he makes the decision he's going to try to be a priest. And which really breaks the girl's heart, because she's a good Catholic girl, and she finally banged him once, and then he made a decision to be so she's not happy with him. And but they end up staying friends. Well, he gets into the seminary against all odds. He makes it into the seminary. The Monsignor is played by Malcolm McDowell, who's pretty good in it. And
Malcolm McDowell's always great.
Yeah, he is. And then he manages, again, he has a way of connecting with people, especially like when he goes to a prison or something, where the people that go to seminary are people from pretty well-to-do, sheltered backgrounds, and he is not. So when he goes into a prison, wants to talk to them, he's able to connect with them and get through to them in ways the other guys aren't. And you think, okay, looks like he's finally going to make it. And then he ends up getting muscular dystrophy or something similar to it. Some rare one that he shouldn't even be able to get at his age. But so he ends up just in a wheelchair, and they don't want him to they don't want to ordain him because they feel like he could, spill wine and, can't perform the duties of being a full pastor. So he ends up going back home with his dad to his mom's back in Ohio, wherever they are. And, his struggles got his mom and dad to get back together, got him to make peace with his dad. And then they all come out from California back to whatever Midwest town that he's in. And the Monsignor said, we fought for you. We're getting you ordained. And they surprise him with this whole thing. And then he spends his days basically just taking confession at a what do you call it, like a home,
right,
where he has to stay because he can't be on his own. But he takes confession, and there's like lines all around, and he ends up going on TV and things like that. And he ended up dying at the age of 50. He wasn't very old, but obviously made enough of an impact to get a movie made about him.
And this is a comedy.
It has funny moments, but no.
No. Sorry. I was being facetious then.
Yeah. Oh, that was a joke. Okay. I'm sorry.
Well, it sounds funny.
Yeah, you're so out of practice. You want to play? Let's play. So the thing is that the movie sounds good enough, and certainly the acting chops and the production value and everything is really good. The movie kept me engaged. At the beginning, it was kind of irritating because they were running one boomer song after another to reflect what was going on the screen, and it just kept happening and happening, and I was like going, oh, okay, that's enough. But that settled down, and as I look back on it, it might have been a choice because all that music was kind of, it was, they never, it was done in almost an empty kind of way. And by the time you get to the end, there's none of that happening anymore. None of that music is happening because now he's moved on to a different
Do we have
mindset.
Any records about guys dying with muscular dystrophy? Are there any songs about that?
Not too many. But I mean, if they're playing something a little bit more serious, something more that you would hear in a church maybe, or something just orchestral. Or they're just keeping it quiet, and that all works. So maybe that was a choice, but at the beginning I was kind of like, come on, enough, I get it. But otherwise, it was very engaging, and I cared about him, I cared about the characters. So I look at the Rotten Tomatoes score. Rotten Tomatoes score is, what is it now? Let me see. Let me look it up here real quick. Talk amongst yourselves. The last I saw the Rotten Tomatoes score was under 40, and at this point it's under. No, screw your ads. It's 42%. 42%. But the audience score is 95%.
It's so weird how Rotten Tomato scores are very, some of the movies that have come out, and it's like the critics have given it 99% and it's certified fresh. And it's like the most
about some
awful
woman fucking a fish monster, and that's supposed to be amazing.
Yeah, and it's just the most awful movie. And then the fans actually start to see it, and then it suddenly brings that score down to a sort of good level. It's actually a pretty decent judge.
It actually was down in the 30s. It's come up, so I think that there's other reviews coming online now that it's out in theaters and people who couldn't get a screener for it. But I mean, the audience score, you got two scores. You got the audience score and you got the critic score. And I don't blame Rotten Tomatoes per se on this. I do blame them for embargoing or calling it review bombing and wiping out audience scores and things like that when they're trying to push something. But as far as the scores themselves, all they're doing is counting up and saying, "Is this and a binary? Is this a positive or negative review? If it's more than 50% or 60%, then it's a positive. If it's less, then it's a negative." Or the critic decides whether it's rotten or fresh. I don't know how it all works, but I mean, that's like you could have like 100 reviews all at 59%, and it would be considered rotten. Or you could have, 100 reviews at 1%, it would also be considered rotten. Now, which is the worst movie?
Didn't they say recently that one movie, wasn't it Paddington 2, had like 100%, so it was technically a better film than Citizen Kane?
Yeah, I mean, that's you're trying to put mathematics to something that's so. I mean,
obviously it is. Paddington 2 is obviously much better than Citizen Kane. Citizen Kane's in black and white for starters. Come on.
1942 is no excuse. Well, whenever that was made, but I'm just kind of like, it just shows me how the journalism, whether it's in movies, politics, you name it, it doesn't matter anymore. They are all in some sort of biodome that is cut off from the rest of the world. They don't seem to have any understanding of what people care about or think about. They don't have any connect. I mean, I don't know how you not connect to this guy and his problems in this movie. I just don't know how you don't do it. I mean, good God.
He's not female for starters.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's just it. I mean, that's a good point. If you are making the most shallow, immutable parts of a person the most important parts of a person, that means you're an empty person, right?
Yeah.
And empty people don't look at things like this as real or nice or good story. I guess that's what's happening here.
I mean, I do wonder, funny enough, I was talking to somebody about this the other day about selling out. And, here at the Last Movie Outpost, we try to be as integral as possible, to any of the movies. And I know I've reviewed, I think last year I reviewed Pig, and I didn't get Pig at all with Nicolas Cage. No, didn't get it. And
is that the one where the kid is born a pig or something?
No, that's Lamb.
That's Lamb. What is Pig?
There's another one called Beef. Pig is the one where he's the truffle. He's got a pig that snuffs the truffle.
Oh, right, the Nick Cage one.
Yeah, and I didn't get it. But I mean, I often sort of wonder if one of these big one of these big companies came up to me and sort of said, "Hey, if you like our film, we'll pay you off." And I think to myself, I wonder how much it would cost me. Probably a donut. And I would completely sell out. But I mean, I do wonder that. And I do wonder with the critics and stuff that if they are told, you have to give this a good score, so give it a good score, and.
Well, I don't know if it's pure. I don't think it's like they're writing a check to these guys, but I do think there is something about access and like if you give somebody a shitty review, then you don't get into the next press junket.
Yeah,
which So I think there is some corruption that's gone on there.
Yeah,
but
I can't imagine that, especially in somewhere like Hollywood, that there's. just like an equal leveling, like you say, that if you didn't like somebody's movie last time, it's kind of, well, no, I appreciate that, I didn't think it was very good, but still come to the next one and I'm sure you'll enjoy it, type of thing. It is like you say, you didn't like the last one, so no.
You can't make all these movies and support them all with tickets just from critics. There are not enough of them.
Yeah. Wasn't it Oscar Wilde who said critics are like generals who come down after a battle and shoot the survivors?
Yeah. Well, I mean, I'm just like, if you're not, here's a movie that's connecting with audiences clearly. Now, was it the best movie I've ever seen? Is it something I'd have to watch again? It's not it was a good movie. I'm glad I saw it. It was much better than I expected it to be. Is it an overly religious movie? I don't see it that way. I see it as more of a hero's journey, overcoming, learning. I think the message in there was that suffering is a blessing in a weird way. His suffering, because he was suffering, he was able to take on and inspire a lot of people. Now, who wouldn't want to be somebody who inspires a lot of people? Who wouldn't want to get that opportunity, even if it's just your family, right?
It's kind of weird that you say that, though, because like you say, because you said it yourself, it's quite an inspiring story and that suffering is a good thing. But yet we see so much of the opposite in Hollywood at the moment, that anybody who seems to suffer the outrage of being mispronounced as a gender,
right?
They immediately cave and, upset and screaming and shouting. And it's kind of, like I say, some suffering is actually good. It teaches you valuable lessons, but you're obviously not learning anything from your lessons, are you? Because you just scream and shout and,
Yeah, I don't understand. I mean, it's a good message. It was not preachy like you should. There was nothing in there about believing in God or else you'll go to hell. That's what the religious community. That's where they failed. That's where they lost everybody. Because if you don't think that the religious right wasn't in charge of this country for a good portion of the 20th century, you're out of your mind. But they got careless. They got lazy. They didn't give people a reason to go to church or to believe in this stuff. They didn't. They had so many. I remember, and I think it all started with this. I remember all the televangelists, just one after the other, falling into some sort of corruption or scandal, constantly. Because you're preaching this stuff that you're not living yourself, right?
The Lord says, "I need a new plane." Yes. And He has asked me to ask you, the poor people, to send the money in.
God wants you to buy me a water park.
Yeah, exactly.
And they're banging women left and right, and the money is going no place. They did themselves in. And then when you say, "Well, why should I believe in this stuff?" It's like, because you go to hell. It's like, it's not if that's why you're doing it, because you're just frightened, you're not growing as a person or anything.
The thing that always annoyed me with that is how some parents would say to their children, "If you lie, you go to hell." And I used to think to myself, I understand it. If hell exists, I understand somebody like, say, Hitler going to hell because he killed millions of people and he started a war and everything else. But a young boy telling a lie, that seems a bit unfair, sort of.
I do understand, like, when you're 5, you telling the kids that. Same reason you tell them, if you're good, you'll get gifts from Santa Claus at Christmas, It's not. You can't go into the Plato's Republic at age 5. You gotta you can't get into Aristotle and some heavy shit like that. You have to go into it with some simple cause and effect ideas.
I thought you said Plato.
No,
that's a completely different Greek philosophy.
Plato's Republic. I'm telling you, that's advanced Plato right there.
I have built, therefore I have made.
But my point is that I think I had a point somewhere. I get where religion, you teach them young kind of simple cause and effect stuff, and then you get into more advanced stuff. But they got lazy. They didn't do any of that. And they just got up on TV and said, "You going to hell." And they amped up their Southern accents, and they give anybody a reason. And then when you have, even the Catholic Church diddling all kinds of kids and everything else, why should we believe in you?
Yeah.
Now, is the secular religion of the state, is it learning any of those lessons? No. In fact, it's taking those ideas of hypocrisy and turning them up to 11.
Well, it's what everybody's doing, so we just thought we'd join in.
Yeah.
Politicians are doing it. Disney's doing it.
It's sad because this movie seems to get back to the idea of why we're religious people, most of us. Yeah. I mean, I hate to say it, and that'll dovetail nicely into our next movie. But we are a religious people willing to follow and believe in stuff, even if it isn't in our best interest or even if it isn't correct, just because it feels good.
Yeah.
And this movie, Father Stu said, hey, if you really want to believe, the reason why you do this is to understand, to deal and find meaning in your suffering.
Yeah. Which is,
not, and that the meaning is what makes it worthwhile, not being a rich and famous actor. So
interesting. So that's quite a good review then, because it does sound very interesting. I didn't know what it was about. All I knew was kind of Mark Wahlberg was a boxer. That's kind of the only thing I got from reading through the IMDb profile. Easy. Yoda spilt his drink. That's not gonna keep him sober for long enough till the end of the stream. All right.
I'm gonna have to mop up. So I'm gonna put you on. You go ahead. Talk away.
In fact, this will be easy then, because I mean, if we're going to talk about Life of Brian, I could sit here and probably render the whole thing, because I have seen it. I would say I know word perfect. I think I probably know Holy Grail better, because I've always preferred Holy Grail over Life of Brian, but Life of Brian is brilliant. And speaking of Easter movies, obviously, this is what everybody's celebrating at the moment, Easter, and so it's. It's one of those movies. I said the other day how weird it is that you watch. My dad was a big fan of Jesus of Nazareth with Robert Powell, which is a good rendition by, God dear, how I remember this, Franco Zeffirelli. Brilliant cast in it. But now when you watch it, you only think of the scenes from Life of Brian. I kind of hate it when parodies do that. There's a bit in The Simpsons where they take off The Shining, and now when I watch The Shining and see the blood coming out of the elevator, I just hear Mr. Burns' voice going, "That's strange. The blood usually gets out on the second floor." And Life of Brian is like that. That this you can't kind of watch a religious film or watch a film about Jesus without remembering what it was like with The Life of Brian. The bit that always gets me is when they're carrying the crosses down the street. And I think it was Terry Jones comes up to this guy and goes, "Oh my goodness me, you." Oh, he's coming back now. I was just saying about the bit in Life of Brian where the guy's walking down the street and with his cross, and then this guy goes, "Oh, may I help you, my brother?" And he goes, "Yeah, thank you," and then just uptails and runs off. And then for like ages, Terry Jones right at the end going, "If he comes back, you'll take me down, won't you?" "Yes, we'll take you down."
I love Eric Idle behind him going, "Oh, he got you, didn't he?"
He saw you coming. But I was just saying about how some parodies take the edge off them when you're watching something serious. That, like I say, with like I say, my dad used to watch Jesus of Nazareth growing up, which with the Robert Powell version, which is quite a good version. It's about 4 or 5 hours long, but it's quite good. But I can't watch it now without thinking of those scenes from Life of Brian really taking the edge off.
All you're hearing on the thing is, and you're just laughing.
Yeah. Of course, he's brought forth juniper berries. It's a juniper bush, and stuff. And I mean, how does it go down with you? Obviously, it's a very British movie and very British sense of humor. How does it go down with you as an American?
Well, Monty Python kind of exceeds boundaries, in my opinion.
Yeah.
So, I found the movie even more brilliant than than the last time I saw it, and it hadn't been that long ago. I mean, just watching what's happening now, and watching how people. And I said we're very religious people, and this kind of brings it all to the forefront, And we have several things going on. So I started to take some notes. I don't have it with me, but I'll mention some of the big moments that I noticed that were thematically like in your face. One was the various factions fighting against the establishment.
The oppression.
The oppression is like, well, what have the Romans done for us? And the guy lays out the aqueducts, sanitation. Like, it was really shitty around here before they came. They
make it safe to walk the streets tonight. You know what it was like beforehand.
Yeah. And I'm thinking of all these Antifa communist bastards that are complaining about everything with their iPhones, right?
That's right. I hate capitalism sent by iPhone.
These fat, ungrateful assholes, Now, yes, did the Romans take over versus the way America and Britain are, which are free countries? I mean, to me, it just makes it more hilarious that they actually can identify that, there are some good things where these ungrateful bitches can identify anything that's good. America's the root of all evil. It's like, get fucked. So
it's one of the roots to all evil.
So I love that. I love the little conversation where the guy wants to be a girl. He wants to be a lady. You can't
Loretta.
be a lady. I'll call me Loretta.
Yeah.
It's like, I want to have babies. Where are you gonna? Where's it gonna gestate at? You don't have a womb. And,
I think we should fight for his a choice for being a woman.
For his right to have baby. What's the point? Why are we fighting for the right for something that he can't be? Well, it's symbolic against his fight against the oppression. It's like symbolic of his fight against reality. I was like,
it is how it's. There's another in I think it's The Meaning of Life. There's a bit where there's a lady being born in a hospital, and the hospital administrator comes around and everything else, and this baby's born, and then he says, "Right, take it off and get it washed." And this woman goes, "Is it a boy or a girl?" And I think it's John Cleese turns around and goes, "I think it's a bit early to be assigning genders to it, isn't it?" And it's again, that was like what, 78 or something or other, but they had it so
early
right.
80s, something like that. Yeah.
And now the Judean People's Front is literally Twitter fighting for the oppression so that Loretta can have babies if he chooses to.
Yeah. It's so ridiculous. And then the various factions eat themselves. Right? So, like, both of them have the same idea to go and kidnap Pontius Pilate's wife. And
We've had ours for weeks. We've been planning this for months.
Yeah. And they meet up, during the raid and just kill each other, except for Brian, who's like, "We should all work together." Yeah. And I'm thinking
because he says we should be struggling together. We are struggling together.
Yeah. And I'm thinking of the TERFs versus the trans versus I mean, like all the left, all these little factions just keep eating each other.
Yeah. Because their cause is more important than somebody else's.
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. And then, of course, he says a couple of things that are nonsensical. Because so he's trying to get away from the Romans.
Found this spoon, sir.
Yeah, found his spoons. Yeah, I love when they all go running in. It's like, brum, 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 brum.
Found this spoon, sir. There's one place we didn't look.
It's like, would you like to be crucified? It's like, could be worse. Was it a crucifixion? Yeah. Oh, he could be stabbed. Stabbed? You're a weirdo.
Weird, yeah. But yeah, he falls down and to make sure that he's hiding, he sort of starts spouting.
Yeah, he falls down. Like there's a whole group of crazy prophets.
Yeah.
And you go from
it's like Prophet's Corner type of thing, isn't it?
Yeah. Like you go from the one guy who's just insane. And he's like, he can barely stop from eating his own poop. And he's just screaming all kinds of stuff. And we're all going to die. And the world's going to end. And then it gets a little bit nicer, a little bit nicer. Then you finally get to the last one. He's like, and therefore, Jesus wanted us to maybe find some little bits and not lose the tools in the garage.
I love the fact that there's this one guy fascinated with what he's saying.
Yeah, fascinated.
It's just one bloke going,
Yeah. Sometimes the children take the tools and don't put them back where they're supposed to.
And then another man shall borrow another man's hammer and not give it back.
And not give it back. It's very mundane stuff. Well, he lands. He's up there hiding from the Romans, and the balcony, the shitty balcony. It looks like it's made of balsa and hope, and it just falls. And he knocks one of the prophets into an urn, and he's like now a prophet, and so he decides to start playing that up just so the Romans won't notice him, the hiding in plain sight. And so he does that, and he kind of trails off, and people start he didn't say anything, and immediately they're completely smitten. And then they just start chasing him all over the place, going, "You're the Messiah! You're the Messiah! He lost a shoe! No, it's the gourd! He needs the gourd!" They can't agree, so they immediately begin going, sectioning off into different religions.
Forming their own factions from that's right, from the same guy.
from at the very beginning, they begin dividing up into factions, and he's just a guy. It's just like, leave me the fuck alone. That's all he really wants. He wants to get laid and get left the fuck alone.
The bit that gets me about that is, I think it's John Cleese when they follow him up to the mountain of Wasteland, and he says, "Oh no, you're a very good Messiah. I should know. I followed a few." And to me, again, that's kind of like, the way the world is at the moment. That it's kind of, sort of, I'm trans. Are you? I feel a bit trans as well. Yes, I think I'm going to be trans, and just people just literally pick up these things and run with them. And it, like you say, sort of, I imagine all these people that were trans, 6 months ago, they were all wanted to be women. And then 6 months before that, they were all flat earthers. And 6 months before that, it was whatever other bandwagon they were going to jump on. And again, it's amazing how ahead of its time it was as a movie.
I loved how all the, it was really the main one, the People's Front of Judea, or the Judea, I don't know, whichever one it was.
Yeah, the PFJ, yeah.
Yeah. And so he gets them all to do this stuff for him, but he doesn't do that stuff. He's got a bad back. Right.
That's like the bit where he says, there is not one of us who wouldn't give our lives for our cause. Reg. Oh, no, there's one of us.
One of us would. But that's just it. Reg wouldn't. He stayed behind. And then the actual leaders of these factions, of these oppressed factions, they just gather money and run proclamations and do all this nonsense stuff, but they don't actually do anything except keep themselves,
and talk, and just sort of they get everybody all riled up and sort of, right, okay, this is what we're going to do. These are the plans that we're going to make. All of us will be going, apart from Reg, who has got a bit of a bad back.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then when they actually say, okay, this is what we're going to do. Yes, we got to start taking action. That's right. All we do is talk. You're right. That's all we do is talk. Yeah. I'm going to put that down in the minutes. It's like, it's just...
I love the bit when she comes in saying, no, this is our time for action. We can actually do a little bit of gig for the feminists.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry.
Sorry, Loretta.
Again, it's so weird how advanced they saw the social conscience of what
they did. They saw it all because none of this is new. No. It's just, it may be new subjects, but it's not new. It's the same bullshit, and they tagged it all perfectly. I think one thing they also saw, and I may piss some people off here, but I do believe that most outrage right now is driven by women. And in the beginning,
I can't argue with that.
The only people at you're only allowed to be a man at the stoning. So there's a big beard business. You can buy these fake beards and pretend to be women. And all the women, they are ready. They got the rocks, and they are ready to stone this guy for saying the word Jehovah.
I love the fact as well that the guy's selling stones.
Yeah,
but not this quality. And again, it kind of shows that people will just, like with Apple, there's a new Apple phone coming out. Well, I've got an old one. Yeah, but this is a new one, and it's like, oh, right, I must have that then. And again, it's...
And what are you buying the stones for? To hurt people. And when you buy Apple iPhones, how many people died in those freaking plants?
Yeah, absolutely.
That made them. So, I mean, it's not exactly 1-to-1, but you get the idea. Yeah. And then all these women, I mean, they are up for it. They all have the fake beards, you know, and like one of them throws it too early. Like, all right, who did that? Me. They have to deepen their voices because they forget.
I love the way he sort of goes, "Are there any women here? No.
But I mean, I was like, yeah, women would be the first to persecute in that situation. Absolutely. They'd be, and maybe that's why they had the law. It's like, no women. And then so they just get around, they all buy beards. They're like, we gotta stone people, man. We gotta do it.
Again, I see. It's funny. I'd never thought of it in that respect, really. But again,
I hadn't either until I watched it yesterday.
What got me again about that scene as well is that you've got men dressed as women, dressed as men.
Yeah.
As well, you know, you've got all these guys,
men pretending to be women, dressed as men.
Yeah,
so they won't get found out as women, which they're not. I mean, some of them are women, some of them were actually women.
Yeah. But I mean, again, it's kind of like you say, that whole weird thing that we've got going on with the whole trans thing and everything else. I think in 10 years' time, all these people who were then who have transitioned will then want to become, you know, dressed as men or whatever. And again, it's just kind of.
Yeah, I worry about it. It's like, you know, back in the day, you like look back at your pictures in the 70s, like, God, I can't believe I wore those striped bell bottoms.
I can't believe I was a woman 3 years ago.
Yeah. Yeah. When you do that, you just like stop wearing the bell bottoms. When you decide to, you know, it's like, God, I really want my dick back.
I'm glad I kept it in a jar in the fridge.
Yeah. So I just saw, and of course there's just regular funny moments. The spaceship moment is the most bizarre. Just for no reason, a spaceship picks up Brian and they go on a space battle war with Brian pissing his pants, and then it wrecks and then he stumbles out of it, and then the movie continues. Why is this in here? I don't know.
Absolutely no reason whatsoever.
I have no idea why that's in there.
Oh, you lucky bastard.
Oh, yeah. I do like when he's painting, when he's doing the graffiti, and the Roman soldier comes up to him. And he's like, "What's this supposed to say?" It's like, "Romans go home."
Yeah, well, Romans do.
Conjugate.
They go the
Conjugate. House. It should be Romanus. Et tu.
Plural of Roman.
Now do it 100 times. So he does it 100 times. It's like all over the wall and everything, and then
right. And don't do that again.
Yeah. And then other Roman soldiers like, what the hell are you doing?
It's funny because on the Criterion DVD, there's a couple of missing scenes. And at one point you meet, it's like the Judean People's Front or whoever it is, one of these other factions, but it's the Suicide Squad. And it says they meet up with Brian. It's such a great scene. They meet up with Brian and they say, "We are the Suicide Squad. We can commit suicide at a moment's notice." And he goes, oh, right. And he goes, "Oh, you don't believe us?" He goes, No, I do. He said, "Right, Suicide Squad, prepare swords." And they will pull their swords out. And he goes, "Put Suicide Squad." And they got these little like holes on their chest, which they move aside.
They do that at the end.
Oh, no. But in this scene,
I know the scene you're talking about. But I mean, they do the same thing at the end, which is hilarious. Because it just shows all these people who are doing it for that is the ultimate virtue signal that happened there. Yeah. It didn't do anything, but boy, they felt like good people about it, even if they had to kill themselves.
But in the deleted scene, he goes, "You see, our whole squad has committed suicide. Jones, are you still alive?" "Yes, sir." "Oh, why, sir?" "I thought it was a practice, sir." And all of them thought it was a practice, and so they all get up and walk off. You know, they just sort of thought, "Oh, it's just a practice, so we're only going to pretend to kill ourselves." But yeah, at the end, like I say, I've forgotten that bit. Yeah, they do actually sort of, all do kill themselves at the end, don't they? And stuff. It's again,
almost.
See, I haven't seen it for ages now.
Didn't you?
I should have watched it.
No,
Eggy did.
God damn it. You're supposed to do preparation for this thing. Be a professional, goddammit.
I was going to, but I thought I knew it well enough to be able to do it. I can quote most of it.
I'm talking about at the end during the song, which is the greatest ending of any movie, in my opinion. I don't know if that's the most ironic song ever.
Yeah.
It almost, it's gone. It's gotten bigger than the movie.
Yeah.
And it's almost like it's circled back around to sincerity.
Yeah.
But during that, and those of you who don't know, they're singing "Always Look on the Bright Side of Life," and you got just this row of people crucified. And you see these heads bobbing back and
nodding, because that's the only thing they can move.
Because that's the only thing they can move. And at one point, you see all the dead Judeo's People's Front. The Suicide Squad. They all committed suicide for Brian to get him off the cross, which did nothing. It's like, oh, that'll show him. Show him what? You know. But then during the song, they just cut to them for a second. All of them are tapping their toes. The dead corpses.
Oh right, yes, no, I do remember that now. Yeah, yeah, no, I do remember that now. There's another missing scene as well, where it's got the three or shepherds that apparently saw the angels. They had to go and tell everybody else, and you've got these three shepherds sitting around, and the conversation sort of just goes, "I love sheep. Oh, they are great, aren't they? No, I mean, I really love sheep." What? Anyway, they hear something, so they throw this stone, and then these two other shepherds come over, and one's going, "Oh, they've broken my nose. They've broken my nose." And he's going, "We have just seen glad tidings from an angel." "No, don't tell them. Don't tell them. They just broke my nose." And so they're not going to tell them the glad tidings of a saviour has come just because this guy broke this other guy's nose and stuff. It's worse if you can find them. The deleted scenes are very good.
I know I've seen them. They sound familiar, but I haven't watched it in a while.
It's the same with the old opening sequence of because an expression I use quite a lot is, "Well, did I dream it?" When he's three wise men walking around and thinking, doesn't sound very wise to me, all drunk. And it's the fact
gold,
that when they
frankincense, and myrrh. What's myrrh then? It's an ointment.
Balm. No, it's a valuable balm.
It's a balm. A
What
balm.
are you giving a baby a balm for?
Yeah, and
I
then
love
she
the
goes.
fact as well.
You think she's saying bomb, and then she goes,
Yeah.
"Those are the worst animals ever with the teeth." It's like,
Yeah.
oh wait, maybe there's no animal called a bomb. No, there's not.
The bit that gets me is when they walk out and then they come back in and push her to the ground. And they go outside and there's this holy light shining.
Not sure how they missed that, but
Yeah. It's just what I've always loved about Python is their jokes are incredibly clever, but at the same time they are just really stupid. And that combination of sometimes actually making you think with a joke, but then other times just making you just laugh because it's stupid.
I mean, there is no big meaning in Biggest Dickus and Wadja and Wadwick. There's no meaning there.
Brian, that's a good one.
Brian, yeah. And you got he's trying to say all these names and just all the Jews are just laid out laughing. What about Samson?
Yeah.
And
Samson the Fagothi Slayer. And which again was it was so stupid to do that it's amazing how stuff like that when you I'm just trying to think now of like a modern comedy that's made me laugh, and nothing comes to mind.
And not like that, not in a long time. The last time I remember just getting laid out in a movie, I'm trying to remember what it was called, but it was with an Indian guy that was going with a American girl who had health problems, and the father was played by the Everybody Loves Raymond.
Oh, Ray. Ray. I was going to say Ray Mysterio. Then the wrestler. No, Ray.
Ray Romano.
That's it. Thank you. Yeah.
And the father character he's playing is not quite up on his different countries, races and stuff like that. So he sees Indian and he thinks Arab. And he's not mean about it or anything, but he's just, he just doesn't, it's hard for him to tell the difference. And so when the boyfriend is at the hospital, they're cutting the hospital together, and he starts making small talk. He's like, Ray Romano. So, 9/11, what do you think about that, huh? Terrible? You think it was terrible? And the guy's kind of taken aback by it. He's like, yeah, I mean, we lost like 19 of our best guys.
That is good.
And I just lost it. It came out of nowhere. And I just started laughing my ass off.
I'm trying to think of the last time in the cinema I actually like proper laughed, and I can't think of anything. Not in the cinema. I mean, obviously it's been different because we've had the pandemic and everything else.
That was actually in the cinema, and that's been many years ago, like 5, 6, 7 years ago. But yeah, now to be fair, most of the movies I go to see now are the roller coaster movies that I want to see on the big screen. So it's going to be an Avengers Endgame or Batman or whatever.
You can kind of wait for comedies for streaming.
Yeah, I probably
it doesn't need the big screen experience.
Yeah, I wouldn't have gone and seen Father Stew if my wife didn't want to see it. I do want to see Everything Everywhere All at Once. I'm hearing good things.
Yes. A24 again. I'm quite sold on that already. I saw the trailer and it was just like, yep, quite up for that.
So, but back to Life of Brian. I mean, there was one good joke after another, one good moment after another. I don't think it's as good. Or it didn't make me laugh as much as Holy Grail.
See, I said whilst you're away, I've always preferred Holy Grail over Life of Brian.
Yes.
I don't know why. I just find it much funnier, much funnier.
But Life of Brian definitely has more to say and is more relevant. Because Holy Grail is just bullshit,
almost like
medieval King Arthur. It's just fun. There's not saying anything really deep in there. The closest they get is, come see the violence enhanced in the system, help, I'm being oppressed. That kind of stuff.
They do talk to God. Of course it's a good idea.
Yeah.
Oh, it's like those miserable psalms. They're so depressing.
I never not laugh when they're doing the song in Camelot. In Camelot, and they're dancing. I love
the one
and then
guy.
they just cut. Yeah, they just cut the guy Chase. He's going.
He's just still clapping. He's just happy to be involved.
They muted all the songs and everything. You can't hear any of it. You just see him just by himself, just clearly emaciated and everything else. He's like.
I love the fact as well that after that they just sort of go, actually, let's not go to Camelot. This is a silly place.
Yeah.
They think it's silly. So,
Besides, it's only a model.
Yeah.
It's more quotable. I mean, the Holy Grail is more quotable. It doesn't have, the Life of Brian has more of a through story going.
Yeah.
Working.
Where it's kind of. Thing is it's more sort of like a series of sketches.
Yeah, it is
loosely tied into this sort of story that's going on.
I mean, when he comes out butt naked, he's like, "You all got to think for yourselves," and they all chant in unison, "Yes, we must all think for ourselves." And then one guy goes, "I don't."
Yeah.
Like, you were the only one. I mean, it's just it's one of those mind blowing jokes. It's like I love it to death.
I love this as well. The bit that always gets me is they're all talking in unison, in perfect unison. And then when he says, "Can I ask you a question? Are you a virgin? Am I a virgin like this?" And then they all go, "Yeah, she is. Yeah, definitely." Yeah.
If it's not too personal. How does it get more personal than that?
I was just thinking, Sean would have liked this conversation because it's the bit where she says, "You mean you were raped?" Well, at first, but then after
a while.
I like this. Well, the randomness of, do I have a big nose, Mum? Oh, stop thinking about sex.
I love the big nose guy. The guy that keeps picking his nose at the beginning. Well, he doesn't really. He just keeps accusing him, and he just gets madder and madder.
Yeah.
He's the first one we find up on the cross at the end. Coming down. I'm gonna beat the crap. I'm gonna thump you one. It's like, you're on the cross. What are you gonna do?
I love as well that the whole Sermon on the Mount is then sort of, blessed are the cheesemakers. No, I think it's all dairy manufacturers of dairy products, that kind of thing. Oh, no, it's the Greek. Blessed are the Greek. Oh, I'm glad of that because they have a hell of a time of it, stuff.
Oh, it's the meek.
Again, you can kind of imagine that there are people at the back sort of going, "What did he say? Blessed are the cheesemakers."
Yeah.
Just not actually
the mundane nonsense that goes on. This, here's Jesus trying to say something very profound, and they're just, you can't get past the mundane nonsense, and it's hilarious.
The other bit that gets me is when he's walking back and he's going, "Oh yeah, arms for an ex-leper," and he says, "Then Jesus come along, cures me, leaves me without a living. You gotta." And he,
There's
well,
no
can't you
please.
ask him to-
There's no please to some people. Yeah, that's what
Yeah,
Jesus
that's
said.
what he said. Because again, you're kind of thinking, you know, he had a living and now that's been taken away from him. But at the same time, he's now got perfect health. So, you know, why hasn't he gone and just got a better job? As opposed to bloody donkey owners, all the same, aren't they?
Well, I mean, you know, think about it. It's right. You could do something for some people and they'll never get past, they'll never try.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, I think as well, again, coming back to sort of like the whole how it is in modern day, that, you know, a lot of people just sort of, you know, they have one thing cured and solved, but then they will just moan about something else, you know, and it's just kind of, no, you know, you've got over that. You can put that beside you now, you know, and just carry on. But again, I'd say I just don't. Some people just do not see it like that at all, do they?
Well, what's amazing to me is that, you know, when they made this, they were taking the piss out of religion,
yes,
and dogma and that kind of thing, which at that time they had various points. But what's amazing to me is that how it transfers over to this perfectly to this new religion that has come up, this secular, you know, Twitter is nothing but a stoning.
It's funny
Cancel
how you
culture is nothing but a stoning.
It's how you say religion, but it's religions, because I mean, you know, I've said this before, that I mean 10 years ago nobody believed the earth was flat, and yet now there is a following of people who firmly believe the earth is flat, and they have taken up this religion, you know, as fact.
Well, I don't know if, I mean, I have a feeling there's a lot of people that still believe the earth is flat, like they didn't believe the moon landing and everything. They just didn't have a venue to blurt it out on the internet for everybody to see before. So I don't know how much. I mean, there's always been that nut on the side of the on the corner with the sandwich sign saying the world will end tomorrow, right? I mean, that's always
again, it comes back to me with John Cleese when he sort of says, "Oh, I should know. I follow the few." And again, to me, it is, we live in a society where, you know, I think it was, I can't remember where I saw it originally now, but somebody wanted to put a religious, the Ten Commandments or something in a religious building in America, and they said that was wrong and everything else. So somebody else said, "Oh, we want to put a religious thing in," and they picked like Dagon God or something or other, this like really pagan god or something, and people were up in arms about it. But then after a while,
it was in like a government building, and that was what people got up in arms about. I'm like going, one. It's an acknowledgement of religion, which we've always been a religious country. I mean,
in God we trust is on the dollar bill.
Yeah, I mean, they never said that government couldn't acknowledge that religion exists. And since most of the people, especially at that time, was religious when they got into government, but they understood that people had different religions and we had to respect that. So you couldn't be run by a religion. So you never came into the government building and tried to get your driver's license, and the guy said, "Well, we won't give you your driver's license unless you take Jesus into your heart." That never happened.
No.
You know, no. What happened is that there was a nice statue, you know, that had religious connotations or motivations, a statue of the Ten Commandments, and people walked by it.
I'm sure it was that.
And they pissed their pants because they couldn't handle walking by a statue that said something that they disagreed with, and that was happening well before Twitter.
But with it, the point I was getting onto is they then, whoever started this sort of said, "Oh, I can't remember exactly the details, but they said that we were like paganists or Satanists or something like that." But it started snowballing, and so there are now thousands of people that actually believe in it as a religion. And again, it's just kind of like, how does this happen? How, you know, and to me, like I say, that's what Life for Brian is about. It's not about Jesus or anything else. It is about the stupidity of religion. How, like you say, literally in the first 10 seconds of following Brian, they're already in a faction.
They're already in factions and they're believing. Yeah, it was about believers, not about, because like they show Jesus for 1 minute. Jesus is saying good things.
Yeah.
There was no punch at Jesus.
No.
Zero. It was all the reactions to people to what they interpret as correct, and you can't talk them out of it.
And again, I think we live in that society where people are they will blindly follow.
Well, maybe we always have. Maybe that's just part of the human condition. I don't know.
But like you say, it's now sort of more profound on the internet that people can see it and
It
not.
is amplified for sure. And you can't put that genie back in the bottle. So, we're going to have to learn to adapt to this new reality of everybody saying everything, You never had to live in it's only been, you could probably say it's been since the advent of radio. Let's just say that.
Yeah.
Until then, there was never a time where you could affect more than just the people that you knew or maybe in your town, right?
People locals down the pub.
Yeah. It was not something like you could do something bad and the town would know about it, but it was rare that the entire nation would know about it.
Yeah.
And certainly even rarer that the entire world would know about it. Now, one person could, take the wrong photograph or make the wrong snarky comment on Twitter, and you've got millions, thousands, maybe millions of people coming down on you.
You can literally lose your entire career.
Yeah, not to mention
Literally.
just the noise coming at you, that amount of people coming at you saying horrible things, and humans have never had to deal with something like that up until about 100 years ago.
Yeah, that's true. I think Mike, I saw it as a quote by Mike Tyson, but whether he said it or not, but he said social media has made it acceptable for people to say things without getting a punch in the face.
Yeah.
And that is kind of half the problem, that these people, they can completely hide behind the anonymity because of data protection and everything else. And so they feel that they can say what they want. And like I say, I think the worst of it is sometimes people say like a faux pas or whatever it might be, but then they get death threats and all sorts of stuff. I mean, I know Kathleen Kennedy has had that she's had death threats. No, I don't like the woman, but I'm not going to go and threaten her life over it. It's just kind of, yeah, she's upset me, but okay, she's upset me. That's kind of it. Why would you threaten somebody?
I criticize the product that she's putting out.
Yeah.
Her as a person, I don't know her as a person. I make some inferences based on some of the things she said, and I'll criticize it. But I'm like, I don't even want her to be out of a job necessarily. I mean, I don't know if this is a job for her, but I don't want her to be like destitute or anything. No. I don't want that on anybody. I'm just saying, yeah, I mean, how miserable do you have to be that you're making a death threat at a total stranger?
Yeah, exactly.
Where's your life, man?
Yeah. It is such a shame because, like you say, you can't be that miserable and then function like that.
But I know people like that. I mean, I know people just in our neighborhoods. I've seen, like you get just a tiny little power in a homeowners association. These people go mental with it. It's bizarre. It's really bizarre.
It is. It's very strange. It's I mean, it's a shame because I know my mum, rest her, she's just recently not had good news and stuff, and she's not been very well. She managed to run over her own cat, and so she was really upset about it. And then because she was trying to miss it, she crashed into a wall. So I mean, I've got to go down and sort her out and figure out something or other. And like I say, it's depressing, to be honest. It's really it's really sad, and
it'll be fine. It's gonna be fine. I'm telling you, it's going to be fine. Okay?
Yeah, I suppose. Like I say, it's just one of those things, and it's upsetting.
Some things in life are bad. They can really make you mad. Other things just make you swear and curse. When you're chewing on life's gristle,
Seriously?
Don't grumble, give a whistle. And this'll help things turn out for the best.
I can't believe you're doing this.
And always look on the bright side of life. Always look on the light side of life. If life seems jolly rotten, there's something you've forgotten. Dance to life and smile and dance and sing. When you're feeling in the dumps, don't be silly chumps. Just punch your lips and whistle, that's the thing. And always look on the bright side of life. Hey, I got a chorus. Come on. Always look on the bright side of life. For life is quite absurd and death the final word. But we face the curtain with the bow. Forget about your sin. Give the audience a grin. Enjoy it. It's your last chance anyhow. Say,
always look on the right side of death. Just before you draw your terminal breath.
Life's a piece of shit.
When you look at it,
Life's a laugh and death's a joke.
it's true.
You'll see it all the show. Keep 'em laughing as you go. Just remember that the last laugh is on you. And
Always look on the bright side of life. Always look on the right side of life.
come on, guys, cheer up.
Always look on the right side of life. Always look on the bright side of life.
Most things happen to you,
Always look on the right side of life.
I mean, what have you got to lose? You know, you come from nothing, you're going back to nothing. What have you got left?